always on time, unfairly, but never unkind, unmerited favor is mine, undeserving. Oh, but I receive your grace.
All right, we're taking 60 people here at the Splash Park today. They can't wait to go. That's so good, right?
So amazed when I see it. I am speechless. You take my breath away. You take my breath away. Whoa. Say unending, unending, always on time, always on time.
Church, how's everyone doing today? Come on now, good morning, church. How's everyone doing today? I need a little bit of energy from you today because the Broncos are still world champions, so we got to kind of act like it, okay? All right. So I know y'all, generous church, and you generously root for the best team in the world, and we're still the current world champs, okay? So I just want to say, go Broncos, and I wanted to say, Pastor Paul, of course. Thank you so much for the honor to be here today. It's truly just great to be here, great to be back. Of course, Mary, and I took a second. I told Mary because, Paul, you were talking about how you married into the best family. And I remember that, my brother and I, when you and Mary started dating, we were kind of like, we were scoping you out, man. We're like, okay, let's see who this dude is. Let's see who this cat is, because we got to make sure. We didn't have any authority over Mary's life. It wasn't our choice, but we thought we had the authority. So anyway, that was fun for what it was, I guess. But, man, it turns out that it's worked out great. And I just want to say that about a few minutes ago, I checked in on Facebook, and I said that, because we had to make it official, I checked in on Facebook. So I'm here officially, and what I said was, it's good to be here because you have been with us since day one. I'm happy this time to have my wife with me, and she, if you'll notice, she's got a little walking boot on today. She kind of tried to break her ankle the other day, and so, but she is here, and she's in one piece for the most part. And my kids are giving your children's workers a run for their money right now. I assure them, I assure you. But we are so happy to be here this morning, truly honored. You have been with us since day one, and I was thinking back to the last time that we were here sharing. And really what it amounted to was that I came to you with nothing more than a handful of dreams, a handful of desires and just kind of passions that I felt God had birthed into my heart and into our heart for what we wanted to see done in inner city Denver. And really that's what it was it was just kind of like, hey, this is what we feel God has called us to do. This is what God is leading us to do. But that's all we could bring to you at that moment. And you stood with us, and truly you got behind us, and you've been behind us ever since. And so I kind of feel like this morning I'm here to report to you. I'm here to give an investor's report as to what you have been involved in 5 Points Denver, because truly that's how I feel, is that you've kind of dispatched us to the 5 Points front in this battle, in this spiritual battle, and we're in that front. meanwhile, you're here in the Grand Junction front, and together we are pushing back darkness, and we are bringing the light to these dark places spiritually for Jesus Christ. And it's truly been a partnership over these years. And I want to share with you, as you know, the video shared a couple of things. There's a couple of photos I just want to walk us through. So whenever that's ready, go ahead and pull that up. I'll just kind of walk us through it. I think you might have seen that one on Facebook earlier today. So that's the family. And really, I put this up because, of course, my beautiful family. But last time that I was here, we didn't have this edition right here. This little girl here, her name is Nasea. And I wanted to kind of highlight that because missions is really all about this right here. Missions is all about saying yes to God when you have no idea what He's going to ask you to say yes to. But you say yes to God up front. And it's really just being prepared for anything that He's going to have you say yes to. And you say, God, I'm all in. I don't know what this is going to look like, but I know that if there are some things, some difficult tasks that you're going to require of me, some difficult things that you want me to be a part of, you know, in the plans that you have for me, then I'm not going to say no in those moments, in those crossroads, in those junctures, because I've already given you my yes. So then what happens is when we get to a tough time down the road, I know when I'm looking at my available options that no is no longer on the table. And it's just, all right, God, how are we going to get through this? For instance, when you get a call on a Wednesday afternoon from Human Services and they say, hey, can you let us know by tomorrow if on Friday morning you can bring home a little baby girl? She's a drug baby. She's got cocaine in her system. She's born 2 months premature. She's got brain bleeds, possibly cerebral palsy. She's got some other issues. We doubt she'll ever thrive. And her mom has identified you as next of kin. And she said you're her pastor and that you'll take her baby home. So can you let us know by tomorrow morning if you'll take this baby home? She's 11 days old. She's in NICU and all this stuff. And you think, we can't do this. Is like insane. We need 9 months to prepare for our next baby, not 24 hours. And so he's like, God, seriously, come on. But God, I already told you yes. So yeah, we'll take this baby in. And it's not because we're anyone special, I assure you. But I can tell you this, it's simply saying, God, evidently you have brought us to this juncture, you've brought us to this point, so evidently you have a plan. So let's just kind of see what you got up your sleeve, God. Right? Because listen, serving Jesus, not just missions, not just ministry, but serving Jesus should be an adventure. Your life should be adventurous. You don't have to, go hike K2 or Mount Everest to have an adventurous life. That would be a pretty awesome adventure. But your life should be showing the people around you that, hey, I am connected to the life giver, Jesus Christ, in whatever capacity He has designed for you. So anyways, that's just a little snippet on that picture. Go to the next picture. Let's see so we got some kids here, man, just some beautiful kids from our kids camp. About 3 years ago, we started an annual summer camp that we run through the month of July, and we feed anywhere from 50 to 60 kids a day that come through our building, free breakfast, free lunch, in partnership with a program called Hunger Free Colorado. And then, of course, we give them Jesus. We provide enrichment programs. We take them on excursions. I tell you, when you take 60 kids from the hood and you take them horseback riding, that is an adventure. I promise you, okay? That's an adventure you'll never forget. Go to the next picture here. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so a local little newspaper picked up at the end of the camp. Every single kid gets a free backpack stuffed with school supplies and a kid's Bible that's age appropriate for their age. Every year we do that. And again, I say these things because you help us provide these materials. You help us provide this camp free of charge to our kids. You see what I'm saying? Every penny we spend comes from churches just like you who understand about missions and who understand what it's like to be a part of something like this. And so we do not take it for granted. Go to the next picture, if you will. Of course, you saw the community dinners, and I'll share kind of more about that later. Go to the next picture. Let's see. I think I might have had some food in there. That's kind of fallen off the table a little bit. But go to the next one. So we serve a lot of good food. And you see there, here's kind of what I want to get to this morning. I'm going to be sharing from Luke chapter 15 here in a few moments. But the last time I came to you, we said we're going to plant a church. I had no idea what that was going to look like. And we tried, let me see. We tried a few different things and really just let's kind of see what sticks on the wall and let's go with it. Now, I mean, there was a little bit more planning than that, I assure you, a little bit more prayer than that, you're right? But we didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. And it turned out that we discovered along the way that one of the best ways to reach people in our neighborhood, you know, when you're trying to reach out to prostitutes and drug dealers and drug users and gang members and, of course, you know, the homeless, those who are in poverty and things like that, that you're going to have to not only think outside the box, but you've kind of got to get outside the box and then just kick the box away and say, all right, God, like, we're a blank canvas, whatever you need us to do, we're here. And we discovered that you can get to church from Sunday morning, yes, but you can get to church from Thursday night as well. You can get to church from Tuesday afternoon, for goodness sakes. It doesn't matter. And we decided that the best thing to do is to get people around the dinner table. You know, you read through the book of Acts, and you'll see very quickly that the first disciples, the early believers, the early church, they loved to gather around meal times. They came together around the table and they shared their faith. They encouraged each other. They brought people to the dinner table and they invited people in. And we discovered that it was a really simple way for us to let people know that they're not invisible. In fact, I can tell you this guy right here, his name is Mike, and this guy right here, his name is also Mike. This guy's name is Ryan right here. His 3 kids from California have just recently joined him. We gave him duffel bags full of clothes just on Thursday night after dinner. This guy Mike just texted me today. He's finally out of jail again, but we have an ongoing relationship because he trusts us as his pastors. This guy right here is from Germany, loves to ride bicycles, and he comes over to the United States. Things go awry, and now he's homeless, struggles with alcohol. But let me tell you something. He calls us his pastors. And I tell you these things only to let you know that these invisible, faceless, nameless people that you see in the streets of inner city Denver, they have names. They have stories. They have interests. They have passions. They have families. They have people that love them and who, and maybe at one point, and even, you know, currently, who are curious as to where they are and what they're doing and what's become of them because they've lost contact. And we discovered that the best way for us to communicate to people that Jesus knows who they are and that Jesus sees them and that they're not invisible to Him is for us to look them in the eye and get to know their story and not just say, hey, come to our program and let us feed you, but it's, hey, can we come and have dinner together? I mean, how's your day going? Man, you're really good at riding bikes. Tell me about bicycles. You know, you're really good at drawing. Man, where did that passion come into your life? And then you start to have the opportunity and the right to speak into people's life, to share who Jesus is to you. And they may not walk away 100% convinced, but they're going to come back the next week because our goal is to keep the conversation going. And so what we've done is we started these community dinners. May 23rd, 2013 was our first one. This last Thursday night was our 145th consecutive week of serving these dinners. And we don't have a kitchen in our building. We don't have any plumbing down there. So we've hired 3 different caterers that we work with, and they provide us an amazing meal. I mean, we're talking really good meal. This last Thursday, I was a little bit disappointed. We had barbecue chicken. We had all the fixings. We had it all. But I never got a plate for myself, man. We had so many people, and I just wasn't able to eat it. I was kind of disappointed. But we have really good food. And we have people tell us every single week, you know, they tell us, man, this is the best food anywhere. There's so much of it. And I tell people, because we're down in a basement, listen, I hope you have so much to eat tonight that we have to roll you up out of here. But the reality is that no matter how much you eat tonight, you're going to wake up hungry tomorrow morning. That's why we get into the Word. I'll give them a 10-minute Christ story. I get up and I preach the Word. And I say that's why we believe in Jesus Christ. Because the Bible says that if you believe in Jesus Christ, you'll never be hungry again. You'll never be thirsty again. And I'll tell you, once you find Him, once you realize that He's the answer, your search ends. Because you found Jesus. And I'll tell you, it was kind of a risk to you know, that first month, I would say, at our community dinners. Because there's no strings attached. You come down in at 6 o'clock, at about 6:20, 6:25, I'll get up and I'll share the Christ story. So you can very well leave before, and I could very well be preaching to Jamie and my kids if that's who ended up staying. But we have found that people will be racing to make sure they get there before the Christ story is preached, because it's uplifting. And we'll share from one of the Gospels. And this is how we planted our church. We do church on Thursday nights around the dinner table. And I can give you an update that our vision has become really one that we want to expand what we're doing around the city. And so we've taken the top 10 list of some of the roughest neighborhoods in Denver, and we want to plant a community dinner in these neighborhoods strategically and take this model to other neighborhoods and begin to let that be an epicenter of conversation, of growth, of just, a hub where people can come around and receive, not just the meals, the conversation, but resources. Every single week, people come, they can receive jackets, blankets, gloves, socks, hats, hygiene bags, whatever they need, even, bags of canned goods for those who have an apartment. And so all of this, I want you to know, this is what we've been doing the last few years. And I say we collectively because you've been a part of it. And I'm so happy to report this to you because, again, every single time we're going to buy paper plates, we're going to buy napkins, we're going to buy whatever we need for these dinners, I think about you. Because every penny we spend comes from our missionary supporters, our churches that don't just have a missions mindset, but missions is in your heart. It's a matter of the heart for you. And this is what we talk about when we're looking at Luke chapter 15. Go to the next picture. Let me see if we've arrived here where we're at. I'm not sure, let me see. Okay, this is from a recent Thursday night. Go to the next one. These people here, just 2 weeks ago, I had a gentleman gave me a hug as he was walking out of the building. And he said, "Hey, you're my pastor." I said, "Thanks." He goes, No. You're the only pastor I've had besides my grandfather. And his name was Isaac. He was a Baptist minister. He's a homeless man. He goes, I just want you to know that you're making more of an impact in this community than you realize. And I only share that with you because I felt like in that moment God was telling me through him, stay on course. Stay on course. You're making an impact. I guess I've come to learn since the last time I've been here with you that one of the highest honors that has been bestowed on me is to be called someone's pastor, someone who's on drugs, someone who deals drugs, someone who's homeless, and they look to me and they call me their pastor. That's the highest honor that I've received. And we look at Luke chapter 15. It's such a familiar chapter. It's got 3 really powerful stories. The first of which is the story or the parable of the lost sheep. The second, the story or the parable of the lost coin. The third, and we have a very familiar, perhaps one of the most familiar stories in all of Scripture, the story of the prodigal son, the parable of the lost son. And what's interesting about this is that when you get to Luke chapter 15, I kind of feel like this chapter, Jesus is speaking this, of course, but this chapter is written almost in response to the events in Luke chapter 14. If you have some time this week, go back and look at that, because what's happening is Jesus is hanging out with sinners. Jesus is hanging out with people who everyone knows about that crowd. Everyone knows their story. It's just kind of common knowledge. Oh, that's who they are. And you get to Luke 15, chapter 1, and it's just like, look, the tax collectors and the, quote, sinners were all gathering around to hear him. That's Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." As if that was a disparaging remark about Jesus, when in reality, he received that as a compliment. So then Jesus responds, and what he responds with is the story of the lost sheep. He reiterates his thoughts on that story with another story about the lost coin. He's responding to that criticism. They're saying, "Man, Jesus, you hang out with those sinners. You hang out with those people they're losers. They have made mockeries out of their life. They're nobodies. They are definitely not level 5 leaders. God, that's who you're with? Oh, yeah, Jesus says, by the way, let me tell you something. There's a story, you may not have heard it, but there's this one shepherd. He had 100 sheep. 99 of his sheep, they were good, they were well-behaved sheep. But there was one dumb sheep who didn't listen to instructions, right? How many of y'all know who that one dumb sheep is? If you don't know, you're the one, okay? And there's one sheep. The shepherd is saying, all right, stay over here, stay over here. And all the sheep stay over here. And one sheep goes astray and he does his own thing. He is just determined to be the trailblazer. He's a sheep. He can't be a trailblazer. And the sheep, the shepherd says, oh my goodness, now I have to risk the safety of my 99 sheep. And I had to take extra time, risk my own health, my own safety, and I've got to go search for the one lost sheep. And you could say it doesn't make very much sense to do that. Why don't you just focus your resources on the 99, make sure you don't lose any more, and just move forward. Cut your losses, and let's just go. These 99, look, you've got 99 still. That's a pretty good percentage, 99% still. But the shepherd, no. He says, no, I have to go find this one. Why? Look at Luke 15, verse 7. Jesus says, I tell you that in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. In other words, he's saying, listen, heaven wants to celebrate the returning home of this one sheep. I've got to find this sheep. He reiterates his thoughts here with the parable of the lost coin. And I liken this story to kind of a husband and a wife scenario, sitting at home, maybe on a Saturday, about 1 o'clock, when a big-time football game's about to start, and the husband just settles in. He's finished cutting the lawn. He's finished manicuring the yard. And he does it on purpose because there's a big game he wants to watch. He's taken a shower. He's made himself a sandwich. He sits down. Hey, babe, can you help me real quick? Oh, my gosh. Maybe that's just me. And she's lost one of her coins. Lord knows, no one in that house is going to rest till mama finds that one coin. You see, it doesn't make sense. I've got 9 coins. Goodness, man, I wish I had the 10th, but okay, I'm going to put these in a safe place. I'm going to make sure I don't lose any more. No. She says, I need to move the couch. I need to move the fridge. I need to move everything around, rearrange the living room, rearrange the bedroom furniture. Lo and behold, I'm going to find this one coin. And the husband saying, come on, man, are you serious? The gate, I just missed the kickoff. Come on now. That's maybe how I personalize this story, because you have the woman who's just, it's worth it to her to flip the house upside down, then sweep that house clean. God forbid, I'm going to find that one lost coin. The reason in verse 10. In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Jesus is telling us something here. See, Jesus understood what it was like to be followed by the crowds. Jesus knew, he understood the feeling of being surrounded by the crowds. But let me tell you something. I would like to think that when he was surrounded by the crowds, he didn't see a crowd. He saw people's faces. He saw individuals in that crowd. And he understood that it was more valuable in those times to understand and to know the story of just one person over recognizing the look of a big crowd following. You see, quite simply, what this chapter is trying to tell us is that heaven is busy planning parties. How many of y'all know that's true? Heaven loves to celebrate. But heaven doesn't just celebrate the crowds. Heaven gets excited about the return of just one person. Jesus is telling us, listen, this is what's important to me. This is what matters to me. When just one person returns home, all the angels rejoice. We throw a party, man. We get rowdy. We get crazy because this person was lost and now they've been found. And he kind of just caps it off with the most profound story of all. Because when you look at the story of the lost son. No, I don't consider myself a big-time theologian. I'll let Pastor Paul either clean this mess up next week or springboard off of it next week. No, but this story to me, I just love this story because this is the essence of what we do. And by the way, I saw pictures yesterday of people in your community, the broken, walking these aisles, receiving resources at this church yesterday. You see, you get it. You understand what the importance of the one is. You understand. And in the story of the lost son, in fact, you do a simple word search on the word prodigal. Yes, prodigal means wayward. So the son who went his own way and who he was a vagabond and he was up to no good. But you look at the secondary definition of the word prodigal. It also means lavish and extravagant. But see, it can go both ways. Like you're reckless to a fault. You're extravagantly reckless, or you're super generous, lavish, very nice, extravagant. And when you have the son who requests from his father his share of the inheritance, in essence, what he's saying to his father is, Dad, you're better off to me dead. Because what happens is you can't receive the inheritance until your father passes away. You're his heir, and that's how you receive the inheritance. So he's saying, Dad, you're worth more to me dead than alive. Can I have my inheritance now? And we know the story. He goes and he spends, and the friends are there, the women are there, the booze is there, the drugs are there, everything is there. Well, he's got the money. The money runs out, the friends are gone, the crowds are gone, and he finds himself sitting with the pigs, and he's become a nobody. The good times have left him by, and he realizes, he comes to a point in his life where he says, man, even the servants in my dad's household are better off than I am. So, I think I'm just going to, and he starts this process in his mind. I think I'm going to go back. I'm just going to ask my father if I can be restored to that level of servanthood in his household. I have done too much. I have destroyed my father's good name, destroyed his reputation. Again, the one sheep who probably was told many, many times, don't do it, this is not worth it, don't go down this road. And he says, I've done it all. But it's too much for me to ask to be his son again. If I can just be a servant and earn a servant's wages in my father's household, it's way better than where I am right now. And he gets to a place, and maybe you've been at this place in your life where you've made so many mistakes and you've made such a mess out of your life, you felt like God at one point gave you some pieces to put together and you just destroyed it all. And you get to a place where you kind of rehearse this speech in your life, and you're kind of like saying, maybe you wronged someone that you love, and you're kind of rehearsing this line. You're like, well, I'm just going to tell him this is what happened. I'm going to tell him, I apologize. I'm going to tell him this is how it happened. This is why. Not an excuse, just a reason. And you kind of rehearse these lines in your head. And he's saying, I'm just going to tell my father the truth. I'm just going to beg for his mercy and his forgiveness. And I want to go back and just be a servant. So he's thinking these things. On the other side of the coin, the father. And I would say that, day after day, not just the day that his father happened to see him walking down the road from a far off distance, but day after day before that happened, he looks down the road as he's supervising his servants, as he's walking the fields, and he looks down and he says, maybe my son will return home today. I hope my son remembers that I still love him. That he can't do anything to destroy my love for him. I hope he remembers that he's my son. And he looks down the road and he doesn't see him approaching, and he just kind of sighs. Maybe tomorrow he'll come home. And he gets back to work. And the next day, the same thing. But then finally, there is that one day when he says, well, that looks like my son. that might be him. That is him, and he sees him from a far off distance. So he's feeling this. The son is sheepishly returning home, and he's going to ask simply to be restored to that level of servanthood. And then his father, when they meet, we pick it up here in verse 20. He kind of decides, this is what I'm going to say. So he gets up and he went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, here comes the rehearsed lines, what he's been thinking about. He said to his father, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son." Verse 22, but the father said to his servants, "Quick! Bring the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his finger, and sandals on his feet." You see, his father didn't even let him finish his rehearsal. He just cut him off. He interrupted him. And how many of you know what it's like as a parent, as a father, as a mother? You say, "Don't even worry about it. Yes, I was upset with you. Man, you let me have it. But you have returned." And he interrupted his son. Didn't even let him finish. And the first thing he said, it wasn't, "Oh, this is how you upset me. This is what you did." No. It was none of that. He was accepted home with open arms. He was received with a kiss and with an embrace. And he wasn't only restored to the status of a servant. He was restored to full sonship. He was restored. He was restored to his father. And you see, church, this is the impact. This is the value of a story like this. Because as a church, not just in missions work, but in ministry and in our lives, this is the message that we bring. That no matter how far you've gone from God, no matter what you've done in your life, let me tell you something, church. When you come back to Jesus, you will always be received with open arms. You'll always be received with a kiss and an embrace. This is the message of the gospel, church. What took place yesterday in this building was an amazing act of charity. And there is nothing wrong with charity. And I know you do charitable works, and we all do charitable works. But may we never forget, church, that we are not simply called to do charity work in our communities. We're not simply called to support charity work in our communities and around the world. We are called to preach a message, the message of Jesus Christ. This is what separates us from the world. Keep doing your charity. Keep making a difference. But may we never shy away from telling people, listen, Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. And no one will get to see the Father except through Him. Church, this is our message. And it's time we start living as though we are convinced that this is true. So I just really want to summarize with 3 quick statements. The first of this is this, and I believe we've got it up here. The first is, Jesus didn't die so that you could go from bad to good. He died so you could go from death to life. You see, coming to Christ, serving Jesus, it's about so much more than just trying to stop doing bad things. We don't get saved. We don't come to Jesus Christ and then all of a sudden our life's work is to try to stop being a bad person, to try to stop doing bad things. It's about understanding that we were dead and now we're alive. You see, there should be freedom in that statement for us. To say we have the freedom to chase our dreams, to chase our passions. Why? Because when our spirit, when our heart is right with Jesus, we understand that those passions, those dreams that we're chasing, ultimately will bring glory to Jesus. Understanding that we were brought from death to life. The second statement is this: we must celebrate what heaven celebrates. As a church, may we never get these confused, that we celebrate the things that our society celebrates, that we celebrate what we celebrate simply as a subculture of our communities, but that we always celebrate what heaven celebrates. That's paramount in our thinking. It has to be that we celebrate, that we keep the focus on what Jesus was focused on, and everything stems from that. Number 3, sometimes it won't make sense to go after the one. It won't make sense. In fact, I would say not even sometimes, usually it will not make sense on paper for you to go after the one. The numbers won't compute the right way. We can say, oh, this might not be the best allocation of our resources. This might not be the best allocation of my time. This is, I need to put my energy in these places. It's usually not going to make sense. But if you feel truly, and you can say, God has asked me to do this, God has asked us to do this, then the best thing we can get doing is get busy doing it. Whether or not it makes sense. Really, we have to ask ourselves this. This is the will of God for our lives. This is how Jesus Christ desires that we live our life. It's not about missions in inner city Denver. It's not about missions in some other far-off country. It's not about ministry happening in Grand Junction. It's all-encompassing. And we have to ask ourselves this. Am I merely complying with this vision that God has given us for our lives? Am I just simply living in compliance with this? Or have I embraced it? There's a difference between simply complying with the policy manual at work or embracing it. There's a difference with complying with the way God is asking us to live our lives with things like generosity, with things like sharing our testimony with people, with sharing our faith with others. Do we simply comply with some of the things in Scripture that they're harder tasks, they require more of us? Or have we embraced it to say, God, man, let me tell you something. I'm not going to begrudgingly serve you anymore. I'm all in. God, it is all your way. Period. End of story. I'm going to do it your way. You're in charge. You call the shots. Too many times we try to make it sound so spiritual. Oh, I need to bathe this in a little bit more prayer. Pastor Paul, can you send me some information on fasting? I got to fast this through. I don't know. Let me tell you something. There are some things you don't need to pray about, especially because they're already explicitly given to us in Scripture. We don't need to pray about it anymore. It's there for us to receive, to embrace, and to obey. And sometimes, right, fear looks a lot like wisdom. We're afraid to put ourselves out there. We're afraid to fail. We're afraid to be made, a mockery out of because we're standing for our faith in Jesus Christ, and we're fearful, so we try to pause. We try to, pray a little bit more, and we try. It's only because we're afraid. We're not exercising any more wisdom than the next person. We're just afraid to step out and obey. Let's not be like that, church. Let's not be that kind of a church. I pray that when Luke 15, that when Jesus speaks to defend these practices, that he's not defending them to us, but that we're on this other side, his side, to say, yeah, you can call me a friend of sinners. You can accuse me of hanging out with the invisibles. You can accuse me of embracing prostitutes. You can accuse me of sitting and understanding why people are addicted to heroin, to crack cocaine, to meth. You can accuse me of knowing all these types of lifestyles because I'm around them pretty often. You can accuse me of that. Because the one I serve, he was very familiar with those types of stories as well. He knew who those people were in his community. He knew their names, he knew their stories, and he was prepared. He was prepared to receive ridicule for the sake of being their friend. And I personally I'm just so overjoyed this morning to thank you. I can't even tell you. spiritually speaking, I have been shaken down. I have been recalibrated. I have been retrofitted. God has shown us so much. And really, most of what He showed me is how much I thought I knew and didn't know. But with your prayers, you see, the main thing we had determined was, God, we're just not going to quit. We're not going to quit. So you can just take that to the bank, God. We're not going to quit. We're not going to let go of the rope, period. It's just not going to happen. But it's not because I'm such a strong person. It's because people like you pray for us. You support us. You encourage us. And truly, I know we haven't been doing this alone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for understanding what missions is all about. Thank you for loving the least of these. Thank you for not only expressing that with words, but because you put your money where your heart is. Not just where your mouth is, you put your money where your heart is. And that means everything to us. And thank you, because we're now a family of 5. We brought Nasea home, 11 days old. About a year and a half later, we completed the adoption process. She is now an Olivarez. She's our daughter. 100% ours, calls me daddy, which that's a big hurdle because she was super attached to Jamie only at first. Let me tell you something. It's been an amazing ride. Anytime you're in Denver, please, would you call us? Would you send me an email or a text? I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee. I'd love to show you what you've been investing in these last several years and show you what's been going on. You're always welcome to hang out with us. Come to one of our community dinners. Come and hang out with us. You're a part of it. You deserve that chance. Thank you so much, church. God bless you this morning. Thank you.
Man, isn't it great to be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves? Bigger than us. Not only in Denver, but right here at Junction Community Church. As we get ready to wrap up today, here's what I'm praying. Here's what I'm asking. Is that God would so speak to each of our hearts for the one. Who is the one that sits next to us every week in and week out? They sit next to us in the next cubicle over, in whether it's a work environment or within your neighborhood. Who is the one? Who are the people within our community, and where is God specifically asking us to step out and to say, you know what, I want to make a difference. I want to live my life for things that matter. I want to live my life for things that are eternal. I want to live my life with that same sense of passion that Isaac shared up here. That we would make a difference for the one. Because ultimately, we are the one. And somebody stepped out and made a difference in our lives. And we have to, if you will, use this term, pay it forward. And it's not just about paying it forward because we're good enough. It's about realizing that we truly have passed from death to life. And where are we going to take risks to say, God, here's my life. Here's my dreams. Here's my passions. Here's my resources. Here's all that I am. Can it make a difference for the one? And honestly, Isaac and I were talking late last night. And late turned into later. And by 1:30 in the morning, we're still talking. And it's like, dude, we got church in the morning. But thank God, I don't have to preach. But the reality is the end of our conversation was about the one. Not the crowds, but where are we making difference? Where are we making a difference in one person's life? And so with every eye closed for just a second here. First and foremost, if you're here and God moved on your heart, but you say, you know what, I've never committed my life to Christ before. If you're watching us online and you say, that was inspiring and that was moving, but I have never committed my life to Christ. Or maybe you're here today and you're saying, I've wandered from that commitment to Christ in my life. And I need to rededicate my life. I need to come back to that relationship with Him. If there's anybody here in this place, would you just real quick, would you raise your hand and say, that's me? And If that's you, would you just say, you know what, I need to commit my life to Christ today. Or I need to recommit my life to Christ. Is there anyone here today, you say that to me, just raise your hand and then put it right back down. If you're joining us online, we also want to know from you. If that's you, let us know. Connect in the chat right there and just let your host know, that's me. I want to recommit and reconnect my life to Christ. Or I want to commit my life to Christ today. And all over this place, would you just say a simple prayer with me? Would you just say, Jesus, today, I commit my life to you. You gave your life for me. From this day forward, let me live for you. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Can we just thank God for His move here this morning?